Yeah, we got something from Bruce Party, don't we?
Yeah, here's another one from Bruce that I really like. So he's commenting on the announcement that happened this week of the Canadian government has surrendered Vancouver to the Musqueam Indian Band. And he said these agreements were negotiated secretly without public input. If the federal government wanted to calm the water over the status of private property rights in British Columbia, this was not the way to do it, which means that that's not what they wanted to do. The governments and courts have thrown BC property rights into a turmoil. They have threatened the security of exclusive title. They have undermined the ability to get mortgages and insurance. They have discouraged private investment in BC. These are not policy mistakes. The BC and federal governments understand what they are doing. A new generation of political leaders seem determined to cripple their own country. If you are surprised, you haven't been paying attention. If you're outraged, you must be a settler. If you are a private owner, property owner in the lower mainland of Vancouver, suck it up for reconciliation. After all, we live on native land. Haven't you been paying attention to land acknowledgements? Many Canadians cannot even recognize the attack. Their devotion to reconciliation gets in the way. They are stuck in a stupor of acquiescence and disbelief. Then he goes on to say the beaver is too good for Canada's national symbol. The country deserves the ostrich. And then I added my comment to his article. I said, and you know what they do with ostriches? They kill them.
After they use them. Yeah, Ted, I think, we were in a conversation earlier today, you and I, with an expert presenting some ideas that I think are relevant here. And you and I both know we need to study that before we know the validity of certain thoughts in that. However, one thing that stands out is that the First Nations are being used by the enemy of all people, whether you're First Nation or you're Second Nation or whatever you want to be. But and so this divide and conquer, appearing to give things to one group of people, in this case to 1,025 people, I think, to getting to own, I think, three cities in theory, in one theory. If we think that the United Nations is really trying to support Aboriginal people as opposed to use them to divide and conquer, then we're very naive. And I hope that our brothers and sisters who are First Nations, that they recognize that, and that we all work together to take down the parasite class rather than having the parasite class slam us into each other.
This last one we got, Mark, maybe I'll share it.
Yes, please.
In a letter to BC Premier David Eby, this was written by colleague Wayne Llewellyn, and he says the court's betrayal here is simple and non-negotiable. British Columbia is a constitutional democracy founded on equal citizenship under one law. The law applies to individuals, not racial or ancestral categories. Handing out differential political power, consent rights, or veto authority based on lineage shreds that principle. It's not anti-Indigenous, it's pro-equality, pro-rule of law, and it's what keeps this province from sliding into fragmented, race-based governance that no one voted for and no one, except perhaps you, David Eby, wants. Reconciliation doesn't mean dismantling equal citizenship to create parallel sovereignties. It doesn't mean turning fee simple into a conditional privilege while muttering reassurances only when the backlash hits fever pitch. If constitutional surgery is needed to fix this ambiguity, do it openly through the legislature with real debate. Affirm the fundamentals once and for all, true equality of all citizens before and under the law with absolutely no ancestry-based exceptions, absolute inviolability of private fee, simple property, no political authority in Canada derived from race, ethnicity, or bloodline. Good words from Wayne Llewellyn.
Yeah, I love Wayne's writing, and folks, you'll find Wayne actually. I'm very honored that Wayne is one of the frequent commenters on Wins of the Week. Sometimes he shares like really like